It is another Wednesday night here on the Wrestling Inc. social platform, so you know what that means. It means Alfred, it means Justin, it means AEW Dynamite post-podcast, as we said, on the number one news site for pro wrestling, WrestlingInc.com. At Justin LaBar, at This Is Nasty, Alfred Konuwa, back in LA on the grid. I'm here with you coming from Pittsburgh just after 10:13 Eastern Time. Alfred, what a night. We get a variety-filled Dynamite, a little bit of everything here, whether you wanted women's wrestling, whether you wanted some shoot cowboy, whether you wanted some flaming tables ECW. We got a little bit of it all, which we will digest into. Before we get into that, how are you? How was the rest of the holiday Thanksgiving week for you?
Doing great. When I was off the grid, it was actually very fun. I cannot talk about all my exploits being off the grid because that's how it was. But it's good to be connected back to Wi-Fi here in Inglewood. It was a lot of fun in Chico, California. Had myself a good time. Walked around the beautiful parks that are there and all the great things there is to do. Shout out to Sierra Nevada, which is made in Chico, California. But it was a fun time, and it's good to be back. Good to be back talking wrestling on Dynamite.
Alfred Konuwa, Aaron Rodgers, Brian Cage, Sierra Nevada Brew. I mean, Chico. You know, it's becoming more and more a major part of this podcast. Chico, California.
They should do a documentary on Chico, California. We'll do it. We'll produce it, Justin.
Okay. Chico, California. Tonight's podcast, of course, brought to you by Manscaped. They're with us for the remainder. They've been with us for much of 2021, and they're with us the remainder of 2021. We just got through Thanksgiving. We talked about being thankful for them. We'll talk about how you can stock your stuffing with Manscaped, literally and figuratively, I guess you could say. We'll touch on that in just a little bit. But first, let's touch on some news headlines. Of course, you can find all the news in the wrestling world 24/7, 365 on WrestlingInc.com. We got two we'll touch on. First, let's do the WWE side of things. WWE removing Liv Morgan's comments on the YouTube clip showing what happened on Raw. They end up editing out these comments, and if you missed it, in the contract signing with Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan makes a reference saying, how Becky, her ego's out of control and this and that, and it's her contract, which is the reason why some of Liv's friends aren't there anymore, kind of insinuating and taking a shot, of course, at the budget cuts that has, resulted in so many talent in WWE cut in the last 2 years. So, a little, again, work shoot. These comments always are, I saw social media buzzing when this happened, but WWE taking it off of the YouTube edited version of this segment. Why?
It was actually kind of surprising to see them go there in a promo like that because WWE doesn't like bringing negative attention to itself, especially when it comes to these budgetary cost cuts that they've made that they've largely ignored ever since they've been happening. This has been going on for the better part of a year in terms of mass cuts that WWE's made, and we really don't get any references to this on WWE television. And I think this is just a moment where WWE felt that they wanted to be more edgy. They wanted to be, maybe they were inspired by the MJF CM Punk promo because there were references to that later on in the night. In addition to another reference to people getting fired. So, I don't know. It just kind of felt, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was well delivered by Liv Morgan, but I don't think it's fair to judge it by what I think. I'm sure there's a lot of people who legit got fired and are not happy with that. And maybe WWE's considering that. Maybe they're considering the fact that it is, a lot of people may have thought that was in low taste. But they're just playing it safe. WWE does not like negative controversy, and it looked like it was heading toward that way. And I think that's a lot of the reason why they took this out.
Unless Liv said it and it was not cleared.
Oh, well, word on the street is she was clear to say that. I can't imagine she would say something like that just as a shoot in terms of just going off the hip. Then, we'll see based on how long that match lasts against Becky Lynch. But I would be shocked if she just went into business for herself there.
Yeah, what's the old saying? Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Yeah. I tend to agree with you. She does not see this is her big break at the moment. I don't know if this is how Vince would define grabbing the proverbial brass ring by going off something that he has not approved. But that is one of the things that makes you think when they let it happen on live TV and then it gets edited. You're like, well, was there a breakdown of communication of what she was allowed or supposed to say? But I could also buy into what you're saying.
With Edge, you kind of know that then it starts to be like, okay, well, this is a theme. It's not like unless Edge went into business for himself too.
He's more likely to go. He has the status. He's got the status of he could do that and he could truly ask for the forgiveness later. Liv Morgan obviously in a much less established spot. But to your point, it could have been they went with it, and then you're right after the fact. Maybe they ended up hearing some phone calls or emails from some disgruntled either cut talent or even current talent saying, "Hey, that's really screwed up. That was my friend and their family that just lost their job. And we're gonna use this to get a little extra heat on big time Becks." So I don't know, but hey, it's doing what it needs to do. It's got us yapping about it. That's the whole point. So job well done, I suppose. If that's just the measure of buzz. Somebody else who's going to have a lot of buzz, has some buzz with a story. We'll have buzz when we talk about Dynamite here in a moment, is Cody Rhodes. He says his future is with AEW. Doing an interview with Sports Illustrated, it was noted how the Young Bucks' recent contract extension, and that led to speculation about Rhodes and maybe even Kenny Omega, another EVP, about perhaps that their current deals would be expiring soon. Then if the Bucks had to get an extension, then maybe Kenny and Cody, are they in the same boat or what? And Cody assures that he is AEW. He's not going anywhere. He is AEW for life. This is his project. I guess this is just what you expect to hear this from an EVP, whether it's the truth or not. Whether even if he had any smallest inkling of ever leaving, while you're sitting in an executive position, you're never going to publicly even consider being anywhere else. Yeah, and of course you could always be suspicious that this is just him being the company man and saying what he's quote unquote supposed to be saying. But at this juncture, if you're Cody Rhodes looking at your future, I couldn't imagine him leaving AEW for any reason. Mostly because, you could argue he's like the hottest guy in the company right now based on reactions alone. Maybe not based on how he's positioned on the card, but that reaction for Cody Rhodes, if they play this correctly, and really they don't have to overthink this. I really don't think they should do that much in terms of Cody's character. If they play this correctly, within a year, Cody, I know he's not supposed to be competing for a world title, but at the very least will be the top guy in terms of the number one storyline and whatnot in the company. And if you're projecting toward 2024, I don't see why Cody would want to leave AEW, especially, the default would be, is he going to go to WWE? He's the guy essentially who's looked at as one of the people who fired the first shots against him by going to AEW and starting AEW. And I just think, I know WWE, and they're a very petty company for better or for worse. And I just don't think they would ever be able to kind of let that go and let Cody thrive in WWE. Oh, for sure. I've said this, I've said this on these podcasts before. We talk about all these released talent from WWE. Who's the next one to come over? Let's think of it the reverse way. Who's the first real big AEW name to go to WWE? Whether it's the first time in WWE, or whether it's them returning to WWE. And I do not. That talent might get a really nice fat contract, but it does not mean that they are not going to get embarrassed and not going to have a point made to them or made an example of, at least as long as the current administration is in charge of WWE. If somebody maybe more wrestling pure, I don't know, if a Triple H or somebody different is in charge, maybe it's a different mindset. We're not playing these kind of games, no pun intended to Triple H, but the way it currently stands, I would not want to be the first AEW star to go to Stanford. So Cody, you don't think he'd ever leave, but things always change. I guess if the dynamics ever changed, if right now everything's riding high, momentum strong for AEW, and they got that still have the new car smell, they still have the new kid on the block smell, eventually as time goes on that might wear off, and if dynamics change, you never know. But yeah, for the foreseeable future, I have a hard time imagining any of these EVPs being anywhere else but with the current Tony Khan and company project. All right, let's jump into the Dynamite, coming to you from the ATL Atlanta, Cody's backyard, which we'll note that here in a little bit. And we kick it off with Hangman Page coming out. He's going to get on commentary. Jim Ross is going to be absent from commentary for a little bit here as he deals with skin cancer, I believe. His skin cancer treatment and recovery. Well, soon. He's got a lot of radiation treatment coming up, but I'm just, my thoughts are with JR. And he does add something to the commentary. As much as I did think that it was good in parts, I did feel like something was missing a little without JR. Yeah, so they decided to supplement by just kind of having a rotating cast of talents working the third chair. At first, when I saw Hangman Page come out, I was like, wait, are they going to have him be on commentary for the entire show? Which I wasn't crazy about because I didn't like how ultra babyface that made that panel be, that three-man booth be. But we will soon find out here in a second that it was just going to be the first of several to do commentary related to their segment that's going on. So Hangman Page gets out there. Bryan Danielson coming out for his match against Alan 5 Angels, who is from Atlanta, getting the Atlanta pop. Danielson makes pretty easy work of him, all things considered. He hits the running knee, but he doesn't go for the pin. He keeps stomping the head over and over. Then he puts on a knee bar, won't let go, and proceeds to talk about how he, kicked Colt Cabana's tooth out of his head last week at Chicago. He just stomped the brains out of Alan Angels here in Atlanta. Next week, he's going to destroy somebody from Long Island in Dark Order, which would be John Silver, and then proceeds to start to talk trash to Hangman Page, and of course Hangman and Brian. They cannot touch, as the rule of Tony Khan, because they are going to fight in 2 weeks. 2 weeks time, Alfred, in Texas, in the Dallas area, Cowboys' backyard. They are going to fight. At Winter is Coming. So we're not going to have to wait as long as I thought originally that we would for this title match between these two.
Yeah, and either this is fortuitous timing for AEW being able to have all these matches consecutively in these Dark Order members' hometown, or they're just like, their long-term booking is off the charts. Like, it's one of the two, but I think it's so cool that they've been able to go to these hometowns, and hey, now AEW is beating people in their hometown. Let's mention that. But I do like the fact that now they're going to go to Long Island. He had that very clever line in saying, even though Hangman Adam Page is not from Dallas, Texas, it is cowboy country, and he's the cowboy. So I really like that thread that Bryan Danielson is going to destroy all these people in their hometowns. And I thought Bryan Danielson was great, taking a page out of the Diaz brothers book with the flex while he was tapping out Alan Angels. And I thought this was exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah, I got to say, AEW, you're right. They do. They have a well-focused job on their tour schedule. Everything from things like this that they weave into the stories of Brian kind of running the gauntlet, making a point to beat these guys in their towns, and even just to the way they promote it. It's very back to basics, old school. But I guess we look at WWE, who tour so much, and they don't do this. So at least they go opposite. And they're coming to Cleveland, so they throw Wardlow front and center on all the material for Cleveland, and when they go to DC in January, I'm sure Nyla Rose will have a spot from there. That's where she's from, and Long Island, MJ. So I mean, it's super simple, and I know it is super simple, but the fact that they do it and they do it so well is kind of a breath of live event fresh air there of what to do. So yeah, big show next week in Long Island here. John Silver up against Bryan Danielson. John Silver returning home to the New York area. It's going to be super over. I mean, John Silver, talking about a guy who was just supposed to be just the on the fringe extra in Dark Order, and has emerged to be one of the top stars.
Yeah. And he's beloved among these AEW fans. And I mean, he gets big reactions outside of his hometown. And now that it's been made aware that he is from the Long Island area, that's going to be huge. And it's good. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The more AEW could do this with more of their stars, it's going to seem more like sports, where somebody's going to have a hometown advantage. It's going to be easier for fans to get into it. And they really should telegraph on television when somebody's hometown is a certain specific area. Absolutely.
Up next, Lee Moriarty up against CM Punk. MJF on commentary for this one. A little bit of competitive match, and that's going to come into play in a post-match promo here in a minute. Punk giving Lee some shine. Ultimately, though, Punk is going to get the win. He's now 8-0 in AEW. Has not lost, of course. MJF on commentary has got a few jabs at Punk in his appearance. Says CM stands for cooking meth. Just take a look at the guy. Had a few other digs at the very notoriously well-known straight edge CM Punk. And then we get into the real stuff, the post-match promo of MJF gets on the mic, standing up at the stage, says, "You're not the best in the world, man. What are you talking about? You're struggling to beat Lee. You're struggling to beat QT Marshall. It's almost as hard as you're trying to get into Britt Baker's pants," and proceeds to drop that line at Punk. And then Punk fires back, says QT and Lee are better than MJF, and he knows it. MJF then tops it off with talking about how he threatened CM Punk's dog, Larry, and MJ basically says, "You keep bringing Larry to shows, I'm going to put him to sleep," which prompts CM Punk to chase down MJF. Wardlow steps out on the stage and stands in between the two, and that's how this segment would end. Alfred, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. Did a great job, but I've got to give round 2 to MJF here, and I'm including his commentary because I thought MJF was fantastic in this segment. Especially, he's just sitting on commentary, like seconds into this match, he's complaining that CM Punk doesn't have it anymore, and it really did mirror what you kind of hear on social media, what you hear about people saying, "Well, CM Punk, why does he have to be the nice guy? Why hasn't he done this, that, and the other? I want to see him face MJF." And I think MJF was channeling that, so I think that's what really helped it in terms of him just burying CM Punk on commentary. And I thought they were really good together interacting again. I think this was very well done in terms of a segment. I don't know if this was done on purpose, but I really like the fact that the show opened with Bryan Danielson with a dominant win over Alan Angels. And then immediately after, you see CM Punk having this very competitive match with Liv Moriarty, a relative unknown who's really talented, but somebody who obviously isn't at the level of the CM Punk in terms of star power. And so for MJF to bring that up, how come it's taking him so long? We've already seen how somebody of CM Punk's equal is just vanquished somebody. And I think that really made it stick more, that juxtaposition between those two.
Yeah, another line from MJF talking about how Punk needs MJF, and MJF is the only spark that can even get close to the flame that CM Punk last had in 2011. Of course, making reference to the pipe bomb period of time. This might be, and it's a credit to the old school credit to the mic work. I don't know if there's been a match, never mind AEW, but I guess just any pro wrestling in the last year or two that I've getting this geek to see the two guys get physical, because they have not gotten physical, because they are such just explosive personalities on the microphone on their own. And then so when you brought them together, we've been waiting for this verbal showdown of the OK Corral, just 3-2-1 draw, fire your best shot. So I'm really pumped. This one's one we don't know when they're actually going to get the touch and have a match. We know we'll get more of it next week at MJF's, which will be interesting too. MJF speaking really positively about Long Island. That's where he's from, and kind of it's the only crowd he's baby faced up on the mic. It'll be interesting to see how they do react next week. Do they play along to that, or is it even there? Are they anti MJF, and how that all we've seen it. We've seen AEW in Queens. We have not seen them there on Long Island. So this will be fun to watch what the dynamic of the fans are.
Yeah, and I think MJF will embrace the challenge of becoming a heel in his hometown. Even if he does get those initial cheers, I think he'll do everything he can to turn that crowd against him.
Well, if you want to get cheers, this is where we tell you about Manscaped. That's right, Manscaped, wonderful friends of the podcast, and of course, always helping this podcast, always helping hook you up with Manscaped. There you see it on your screen, manscaped.com. Using the code WINC20, you get to save 20% and get free shipping. It is the holiday season, and if you don't know what to get as a gift or a stocking stuffer, then we ask you to consider Manscaped. It has the tools to guarantee you win this year's stocking stuffer or white elephant competition. Manscaped is the leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they have served more than 4 million men worldwide, 2 of them right here. If my math is correct, that's almost 4 times 8 million balls. 8 million balls have been served up here by Manscaped. Again, manscaped.com. Save 20% plus free shipping using the code WINC20. Ho, 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 fellas. Naughty or nice. 'Tis the season to perform and be looking and feeling good. Manscaped's best-selling product is the Performance Package 4.0, which is at the top of every man's wish list this year. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower Body Trimmer. It is the best trimmer on the market to help reduce any of those nicks and tugs. Let's also not forget about the Crop Preserver, the ball deodorant, the ball toner. They also got the nice shaving kit bag. Also, some brand new things you can put in the stocking stuffer. These just arrived just recently for me, Alfred, and that is the new 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Plus, they got the body wash. They also got the cologne. It's the cologne infused body wash. They got the Shears 2.0 luxury 4-piece nail set. The crop mops. They got the signature cologne. All of this could be wonderful items. If you're a guy, you need to find a stocking stuffer for your fellow man. Ladies, if you're trying to find a stocking stuffer or gift for your man or your significant other, this could be it. Make sure you hurry up, get to their site, and sure these wild gifts show up before the holiday season. We do know all about all the delays in shipping this year. They will get it to you, though, free shipping, and save you 20% if you use the code WINC20 at manscaped.com. Just stress, December 25th is coming quick, so make sure you don't hesitate. Don't sit on this. Don't sleep on Manscaped. They are the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, and they are sponsors of this podcast, and we thank them very, very much for manscaped.com.
Shout out to Manscaped, and shout out to that testicular analysis by Justin LaBar. 8 million balls, he said.
That's the math, right? I mean, you're the Forbes guy.
Yeah.
You're the Forbes guy. All right. Up next, Adam Cole makes his entrance, and then he moves himself up to the commentary desk before Orange Cassidy coming out. They have a stare down on the stage. Young Bucks come out. Ultimately, 3-on-1. You're never going to win on that on Orange Cassidy. He gets low blowed and then gets some super kicks for his trouble. Adam Cole versus Orange Cassidy. Tons of potential here, Alfred.
No, absolutely. I love it. It's one of those magnetic moments where people, once they saw them kind of go face to face, kind of went crazy for it. And I'm surprised they're moving on from Jungle Boy so quickly, but I guess because they won that street fight where don't immediately have to get the one-on-one between Jungle Boy and Adam Cole, but I'm fine with this. I love the super kicks that the Young Bucks threw at Orange Cassidy in the vein of his lazy kicks. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Not only Orange Cassidy versus Adam Cole, but the Best Friends versus the Elite should be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, where are the Best Friends?
That's a good question. They do this a lot in AEW. That's one of the things that bothers me, because they did this with Jungle Boy to where he got beat down and his friends weren't there and they had no explanations for it. And so, it's just kind of a basic thing in wrestling that, especially someone like AEW where there's so many stables, when somebody's out on their own getting beaten up, it's glaring that their buddies aren't there to help them. So at the very least, it should be explained.
That's what I mean. In AEW, it is the ultimate glaring, obvious sin, because it's like that sometimes is a big fault. It is the overbooking of gang warfare. So if somebody is a part of a group, which it's basically everybody, CM Punk's on his own, but that's about it. I mean, everybody's associated with somebody else, and so if they're getting beat down and that group at least doesn't even come out to at least just chase off the attackers, it is glaringly obvious. And unless there's already an explained story of why they're not there, or why they're barred from the building, or they're barricaded in the bathroom, whatever. Otherwise, it's a huge kind of gap in what is otherwise AEW's common trope, which is, again, gang warfare. Wardlow's back out for a pumpkin squash against AC Adams. He's going to finish this off in pretty quick time. Not before doing a 4-pack of power bombs on AC Adams. Crowd once again just getting into Wardlow's supposed to be the big bad muscle monster heel who's protecting chicken shit MJF. But man, when he's out there just on his own, he nails one of these power bombs, and fans just want to see him just continue to just destroy his opponents, which is what he did. I smell the very, very slow babyface turn coming here soon.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. I mean, I thought it would have been happening by now, but I love the fact that they're taking their time with it, because they have teased this in the past between MJF and Wardlow. I like the fact that they made a Wardlow look dominant in this match, because it looks like he's going to face CM Punk before CM Punk gets to MJF. At least that's what was teased. And if that's the case, I don't want to see him just go out there and lose to Punk. I want to see him be dominant so people know how good this monster is. And it's kind of like the AEW equivalent to Suplex City, in that it's a simple move, but he's so explosive in doing it that people go crazy for it, and they just want him to do it again and again. And it's a very simple way of getting this big guy over. And I think they just put him out there. If they would have put him out here for 4 consecutive weeks doing this, by now he'd be where like Miro is. But they spread this out, and I do think that this is really cool that he gets to do these power bombs and really get over with what is supposed to be kind of this purist wrestling technical type crowd. But he's so explosive, and I think it looks so good that he's able to get over.
And that was Wardlow's 12th win in a row, for those of you keeping score at home. Post-match, the chairman, Sean Spears, lays a couple brutal chair shots on AC Adams. So AC Adams probably making more money than he ever has on a given night of wrestling for his young career, but he earned it physically.
Yeah, he did.
He earned it. All right, up next, the Gunn Club up against Sting and Darby Allin. Sting walking back out to his old wrestling stomping grounds of Atlanta. Tony Schiavone getting sized on the mic to introduce Sting. And Sting altering up the face paint a little bit. He had his crow, but also extended it out with some of the attributes to Darby's face paint. And this was a hell of a visual. I can't believe that. We're coming up on Sting's 1-year anniversary when he showed up and has been aligned with Darby since. I can't believe it's took a year for him to morph his face paint to this, quite honestly.
Yeah, they match. They look like a real tag team, so that's cool. The only thing about this is that Darby's so much smaller than Sting that when they both have the same face paint, he just looks like one of Sting's goons, or like his son, or like his little brother, and it's just glaring that he's like a miniature version of Sting, which has never crossed my mind watching Darby and Sting together after about a year now, because Darby has his own like half and half thing going on, and he's Darby Allin, a big star, but them matching like this did kind of seem like he was one of the minions instead of Darby Allin, although he did look good in the ring.
Well, you want to talk about like a visual issue, or not issue, but it's just a visual like, whoa. And it's more of it's not really as much of a knock on Darby as it is a compliment to Billy Gunn. When Darby dives into Billy Gunn in the ring and Billy catches him and then slams him, Billy, who is a legit 6'5", 6'6", and is just ripped and in such incredible shape for a guy who's almost 60.
Good Lord.
And then he's just slamming. It looked like a man beating up an adolescent. just at one of the camera cuts, it was like, oh my god. But again, it's not so much a knock on Darby, because Darby has certainly proved that he is his size should not be his defining characteristic. He's just crazy creative and fun to watch. It's just more the compliment of Billy Gunn is freaking huge.
Guy's a monster. It's crazy because in the Attitude Era, he's walking around and everybody's that size and if not bigger. So
Yeah.
you never got that feeling that Big League goes that big. But now it's, a lot of smaller. The business has gotten a lot more lean. And that guy is like Andre the Giant. He's like almost. He even had a tan that made him look like almost.
Oof. So Billy Gunn and Sting, both in this match, both north of 55. But out there, it didn't look. I mean, Sting more so gets protected in terms of they haven't picked his spots, but certainly neither man looks out of place. They fit and accomplish well. Billy out there with the Suns, the matching ring gear. They're going a little bit of a run here. That's looking pretty good. No surprise though. Scorpion Death Drop though from Sting. So Sting and Darby do get the win, but pretty entertaining match. And like I said, kind of cool if you're a longtime wrestling fan to see Sting wrestling in the ATL again. A lot of history there for Sting as NWA WCW career. Backstage 2.0 and Daniel Garcia attacking Chris Jericho. So Chris Jericho, really now, has done all that he has done a lot on the top of the card. Now really starting to move through the card of kind of picking spots out of where he can help. Who can he give some rub to by sharing some segments with?
Yeah, and they gave them a lot. They beat the hell out of Chris Jericho. And another kind of instance where the Inner Circle was nowhere to be found, but I do feel like sometimes the Inner Circle tends to go their separate ways, save for a couple of group matches that they've had recently. It looks like 2.0 is really overachieving. If there's a year-end award for overachievers of the year in terms of when they were signed, I don't think it was a lot of fanfare, all these NXT guys who are just kind of underneath guys. But they've worked with a lot of big names and obviously on the losing end for now, but I really like the ascent of 2.0. It's one of the more feel-good stories in pro wrestling. 2.0 and Daniel Garcia getting to work with a lot of these bigger names. And I think Daniel Garcia eventually, when they start letting him win, will benefit from this.
What a 12 months it's been for 2.0. Pushed in NXT, then not in NXT, then immediately grabbed up by AEW. I've had some memorable segments, getting some appearances already on Dynamite. So yeah, it's been a hell of a 12 months for those two guys particularly.
Big turn.
So we get Taz now. He's the next one on the commentary carousel. He's out there with Hobbs and Hook standing behind him. Lio Rush comes out, cuts him off. Lio Rush says, "Come on, Taz, you're a commentator. You should know who I am." And the whole thing is talking about Dante Martin, who then Dante Martin ends up walking out of the tunnel with Ricky Starks. And don't know if it's a swerve or something coming later, Alfred, but they at least let the segment end with Dante Martin right now as Team Taz and has abandoned Lio Rush. I'll toss to you first on this because I'm very conflicted here.
Yeah, I would be shocked if it was not a swerve. I will say that because he's not done anything physical with Lio Rush. Wasn't really explained why he's going over there. So I could see them doing a swerve in this match whenever they have it that he goes back to Lio Rush's side. At the same time, there's also an opportunity to have Dante Martin legit go with Team Taz, at least for now, and then have Lio Rush go and get Darius Martin if he's ready to come back. And maybe that will either convince Dante to go back with Lio Rush, or maybe we get a few there. But I do think the direction here is Dante eventually having a change of heart, and this is just a temporary thing with Team Taz.
Yeah, I would hope so, because first off, Team Taz Ricky Starks looks good on his own. Powerhouse Hobbs looks good on his own, but Team Taz collectively is kind of a dud. It hasn't. The team has not had the impact that I'm sure it was set out to have. It just hasn't. So first off, I don't really think it's like the best. Like if Dante Martin truly was being put with Team Taz and he's staying there, but also and even more so, Dante and Lio Rush have looked amazing together. And that's saying something for the level of tag team wrestling how high the bar is in AEW for tag team wrestling. But Dante Martin and Lio Rush have gone out there and have just done some phenomenal things, just wild crowds being put in matches that weren't supposed to be the centerpiece of the night, and so to take that away, if that in fact has actually happened, I think is a real head scratcher. So I'm hoping that this is all a big, aha, we gotcha type thing from Lio and Dante. Cause this segment ended and I was not happy.
Yeah. Dante and Lio are incredible together. And I've just been going on the notion like, oh, this is going to be a swerve. But I would not think that that's a good idea to split these two up and even have Dante go with Team Taz. I don't think that there's a future in that. I think it's going to be a black hole for Dante Martin in particular. I do think that his best shot is continuing to just have these great matches. You really shouldn't overthink things with Dante Martin. Put him out there in the ring. him and Lio Rush just completely light the world on fire, and they will get over legitimately doing that.
Absolutely. Get some women's action here. Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. Very competitive match. I want to give a shout to Ruby Soho, who at one point she thought she had it, and it was a false finish. 1-2. Statlander kicks out, still alive. Ruby Soho sold this kick out with her eyes and facials really, really well. I mean, she just had a great flabbergasted look of couldn't believe that Chris Statlander was still going. So that really came off well, I thought. Ruby does end up getting the win, so she gets the win. They hug and shake hands. So now we know the final four, Alfred, to this TBS title tournament. Ruby Soho up next against Nyla Rose, and then on the top, the other side of the bracket, it's Thunder Rosa versus Jade Cargill. So we're down to the final four. How do you see it playing out?
It's a great final four. So it's Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose. It's going to be
Thunder Rosa versus Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill. Okay. And then Ruby Soho and Nyla Rose. I could see Ruby and Jade Cargill in the finals. I can see that going either way, but I'm still going to stick with Jade Cargill. From the beginning, when this title was announced, she was the first person who came to my mind. And I do think that'd be a good final in that you could see either one of them winning. And I hope it's Jade. I think it's going to be Jade and Ruby Soho, and I think it's going to be a good match in the finals of this tournament.
Yeah, it's the same finals I got, Jade versus Ruby. I'm still, if I'm making a bet, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Jade. But again, I cite this. Tony Khan seems really over and happy that he's got Ruby. So I wouldn't put it past him on one to have her have this inaugural title either. So I guess if that's the final, if those two ladies do win their next matches, and that is the final, it's a great final because it truly is unpredictable. I think you can make a case for either lady for multiple reasons.
Yeah. And don't sleep on Thunder Rosa either. She's been now coming up, and I think she's won like 30 matches in AEW, which is, I don't think they talk about that enough. But no, I could see Jade Cargill, but I like the fact that there's a lot of unpredictability here now.
Yeah, no, and Thunder Rosa, you're right. She's got a lot of momentum. I think it's a lock that Ruby makes the finals. Yeah, I don't think it's 100% that Jade does it, but I'm pretty confident. I think she's going to beat Thunder Rosa, but it's still a great sign that Thunder Rosa's gotten booked this far into the tournament, and obviously it looks like she's going to be sticking around AEW, and so a lot of good things to come for her. She's a hell of a talent. So good locker room leader too, from what I can gather, is that Thunder Rosa. All right, main event time. Atlanta street fight time. Should know T-Pain in the house. In the house. T-Pain, auto-tuning and all. Which, by the way, shout out, I'm actually a T-Pain fan. If you've never seen T-Pain actually sing, I encourage you to go. The most famous one, the one that did it all, was the NPR Tiny Desk. Yes. Go YouTube after this podcast. YouTube T-Pain NPR Tiny Desk, and you're going to hear him do 3 songs stripped down with just a keyboardist, and there is no auto-tune. This is him and his sultry voice that he actually has. Phenomenal stuff. There's my
amazing talent. Yes, he definitely has a good voice, outside of the auto-tune, and deserves more credit for changing music with auto-tune, because people make fun of him for it, but that's where music went, and that's where it still is. There's still a lot of people doing that, and T-Pain took that to the next level. Didn't invent it, but he definitely revolutionized it. So shout out to T-Pain. Love to see him on TV tonight.
Me too. And he did, and plus what he did made a lot of people money. So
yeah.
It's kind of like back in the day, 80s Hulk Hogan. There's a lot of things you can not like him, but he made a lot of people money. So it is what it is. All right, Andrade versus Cody in a street fight. Andrade out first. Then the lights go out for Cody's entrance. Big boos all through the building. And remember, this is Cody's backyard. This is his home state, his home city. He lives in the suburbs of Atlanta. He went to high school in Atlanta. They referenced on commentary him being a high school wrestler. So I mean, this is his backyard. Getting resounding boos though. Andrade comes and attacks him at the stage. Arn Anderson falls off the stage. I laugh because I think Arn's fine, so it's okay to laugh about it now. But this match starts hot and heavy. They start on the stage. They fight all the way through the crowd. They're hitting each other with drinks and weapons, very up in your face, moonsaulting off of the barricades. Finally, make their way back into the ring. T-Pain assists Cody, gives him a chair to use. We then see Andrade beating Cody with his own weightlifting belt. Hits Cody with a laptop. Cody also pulls out a sledgehammer. He disregards that. He doesn't need a sledgehammer. Then he pulls out the golden shovel. Gets ready to use that before Andrade dives on him there. And this all builds and builds and builds. We get blood. We get The table's pulled out. We get more chains. It all builds to a table being set up in the corner. All of a sudden, a masked person in an AEW hoodie comes in the ring, unmasks themselves. It proves to be Brandy, Cody's wife. She's got lighter fluid. She sets this table ablaze, and then Cody proceeds to back suplex slam he and Andrade into this flaming table where Cody gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. Crowd cheering out of respect for this one as Cody's pinning Andrade. Andrade's got a piece of fire that's on his chest that he's frantically trying to get off. Cody's got different shards of wood that are still burning on his body. There's a lot we can strip down, and we'll go through a lot of this. But just real quick on just the visual, holy hell!
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And, a late entrant for finish of the year. I thought this was incredible. Cody's insane for taking something like this. And there was what made it even scarier was they kind of slipped at the beginning of that superplex. So there was that you had to worry about, in addition to them making that big spot through a flaming table. That was just so crazy to watch. I'm surprised. Cody did bleed in this match, but he did not bleed as much as I thought he would. But I thought this was perfect for a street fight. Cody continued to do a good job of balancing that babyface versus heel. He gave him a little bit of the heel Cody. You saw Brandy come in and light the table on fire kind of in heel fashion. And I like the fact that he is this character that I think he's going to embrace the fact that he gets these boos, but he's not going to be a full-on heel. He'll play to them here and there through the match, but I think this is perfect the way they're playing it. And, yes, he's in his hometown. And it should be mentioned, they were chanting for Cody. At one point, he got a "This is awesome" chant and whatnot. So it's the negativity is always going to be the thing that draws you toward that. We're always going to pay more attention to that. That's just how we're wired as humans. But there is a lot of positivity. Yes, he's in his hometown, but I do think this is going to be the norm in terms of we're going to get some people who support Cody and a lot of people who passionately boo him. And I think it's fine because it feels very real.
Well, let's remember, and you're right, as Cody was fighting in the crowd, you're right, there were Cody chants that amped up. Let's remember, this guy, he was born in this business. He's been in locker room since he was able to walk. So he, both as a kid growing up watching Dusty and watching Dusty's nemesis and Ric Flair, and then just in his professional career, spending so many years in WWE when it was the John Cena show, Cody has seen, if you're polarizing, there's a lot of staying power to that. Because it's never really going to get stale. You can be cheered one night, booed the next, cheered one move. So there's a certain staying power to being polarizing. It's the moment that they stop caring to do anything is when you have a problem. When they don't muster up enough energy to even stand up and boo or cheer you, that's the problem. I love Bad Keith Gaming. $5 says, "Gotta love that Cody has to set himself on fire to get cheers." Very good commentary there. Love that when you think of it. Terrence Whitted. Cody is the exact opposite of his father. So let's take a look at this. So, I've seen this, and I want to get your opinion, Alfred. I've seen negativity already, just as I was scrolling, social media, and even some of the comments here of people not liking the spot, whether it's the logic or lack thereof of Brandy setting this table on fire that her husband's getting ready to go through. When you watch it, Cody certainly absorbs far more of the fire than Andrade. To that point, at least that, I don't think that was a botch. I think that's how it was designed because Cody, the commentary even talked about this. It was noticeable that Cody had something going on in his back. Yeah. Now, I looked at it the whole match because it looked like his skin was peeling or it looked like he had something dripped on him. Commentary, whether they were supposed to or not, actually ended up doing a good cover-up. They noted how when Andrade and Cody were out there fighting and they were in the trash cans or whatever, maybe it looked like something from the trash even was dripped all over him. It looks now that we've seen the match, that it was probably some type of protection so he didn't get burned. Go back and watch Kane and Undertaker Inferno match, and Kane has something, it's like a gel all rubbed along his sleeve, which is where he got caught on fire. It's some kind of thing to contain the fire, probably prevent for more harsh burning. So my guess is that's probably what Cody had on his back. So my guess is it's not a botch. It is designed for Cody to take the brunt of that, and Andrade probably did not have that same protection. But I can also see the flip side of the coin of, well, Cody's the one that was engulfed in fire, but yet he was the one who pops up and gets the 1, 2, 3. So I don't know. I mean, this might be getting too in the weeds of the secrets of the trade. I just think visually, I did not tune in tonight's Dynamite expecting to see a flaming table. So just for that alone, I got to say that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good point that they did kind of spring that on you, and you're just like, oh my God, we're getting a flaming table on TV. And yeah, it did look a little awkward that Cody fell to the table and then immediately was the one who got the win. So yeah, you could break it down like that, and that is a very valid complaint. But I do think that visually, just looking at how they pulled this off was very impressive.
Yeah, and all the people saying a lot of maybe too much lighter fluid by Brandy. I mean, again, yeah, I guess more. I mean, the last thing you want is to not put enough, and you try to light the table, and like the table doesn't light on fire, and you know the ref's counting you down. You got 45 seconds to get it off the air.
Give Brandy a break. Don't give her heat for lighter fluid. I mean, it looked incredible in terms of the amount of fire that was there.
Yeah, visually it was. I mean, when was the last flaming table we got on mainstream American pro wrestling? I mean,
that's a good question. I really can't tell you. ECW comes to mind, but when WWE did it with Edge, and then they did
Edge and Foley
match, one of my favorite matches of all time in 2006, a one night stand hardcore match with Terry Funk and Cactus Jack. It was Mick Foley, and then Edge. They had a flaming table spot for that one night stand pay per view, but I don't remember.
After that, though, WrestleMania, wasn't it? RK, or was it was Foley and Edge there, right?
Well, no, it was Foley and Edge at WrestleMania, and then after that, Foley and Edge got together, and then they had the match at One Night Stand, I believe.
But there was a flaming table spot at Mania 22. 22, 21?
Yeah, Mania 22.
Okay. Because Edge speared. Did he spear Foley?
Yeah, he speared Foley through the flaming table.
Because Lita lit it.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the last one that I can think in that time. Because anything before that would have been ECW, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I don't know. That's, again, visually, I mean, we see a lot of chair shots and tables and this and that, but flaming tables, not something that you get all the way around. All in all, okay, so flaming table side. So Cody gets a win. Where's he at? Where's Andrade at? Is this a good turning point for Andrade's stock to rise back up? Because I'll be honest, since Andrade's came, you know, we've seen Andrade, we've seen Miro, there's a lot of names, you know, Adam Cole, Ruby, a lot of names that come, you know, over from WWE. Andrade, I don't think he hasn't had this big shooting star up his butt. It's been kind of up to this point.
Yeah, and I think he's headed right back to purgatory, unfortunately. I think it was kind of slow how he started. There was a little bit of a spark there when he started to get a stable around him, and he had Jose, and then there were those rumors that maybe Ric Flair is coming in. I really liked what they were doing with Chavo. I mean, I was led to believe that they got rid of Chavo because, you know, maybe they were making room for Ric Flair or something like that. But I think Chavo could really help that act. I thought they were great together in the brief moments that we saw that. But now, after losing this big match, and they lost a tag team match at Full Gear, I do see Andrade going right back to being in purgatory and continuing to kind of try to find his way in AEW. Because, yeah, I agree. I don't think he has really overachieved or lived up to these expectations, especially when you see guys like Malachi Black and Miro and a lot of these former WWE guys come in on really day one a lot of times and become superstars.
Yeah, I mean, that really says a lot, right, about the consistency and just the whatever about Andrade. I mean, Andrade's been there for 6 months, and he's already had 3 different managers. He was brought in by Vicky. Then all of a sudden, Chavo jumps in. Now he's got this Jose. I mean, like, that in and of itself feels like we just haven't quite figured out what we want to do, or I don't want to say don't care, but again, just don't have like a firm plan, or oh, it's not working like we thought, so let's try that. Like, I don't know. It's just not, I don't know.
I couldn't explain to you what his problem with Pac is. Like, I've watched the storyline, and he talks about how he wants to pal around with the Lucha Brothers and stuff like that, but they haven't done a good enough job, I think, explaining why Pac and Andrade have problems together. They have good wrestling matches, but I don't want to know what the story is there.
Yeah, that's a fair. I mean, that's a fair, and that's fair. We always have to be careful with this with AEW because they will sometimes fill those little details into the story on one of their secondary things, whether it's dark or elevation or being the elite. Which that could be a problem if you're somebody who just watches Dynamite, because you can miss out on some little things. You know, I know WWE does it to an annoying point of how much they'll show you the same recap package 3 times in a 3-hour show, but I understand the motivation is that they want to make sure they can always bring somebody new up to speed. But AEW, they will sometimes fill some of these minutia details in on other mediums. So I don't know. I can't back you up either. I can't quite say the depth of what the issue is between Pac and Andrade, but Somebody stole somebody's lunch money. We know that. That's where we're at with this. Overall, though, fun, entertaining episode of Dynamite, and hey, it's exciting. Two weeks from today, winter is coming. So another one of their premium Dynamite episodes that is pay-per-view kind of quality, with some big matches that look like they'll be brewing up for it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. I like how they do these television specials. It's going to be good for them. They're in a ratings funk right now, coming off of the Thanksgiving holiday. So a show like that can't come soon enough. And I like the fact that it's going to be Bryan Danielson against Hangman Adam Page on television. I think it's going to be a great television match, and I hope they get a lot of time.
Jody Shauna Jenkins, 5 Canadian, says is Jose the Robert Stone of AEW. He is jacked. Yeah, he did come running back out there with at one point when Cody had the golden shovel. Well, I mean, like Robert Stone, Jose, I believe, used to be a wrestler before he, is in this mouthpiece role. So yeah, I guess maybe he is the Robert Stone of AEW. Good call.
Yeah, it's a good comparison. Very, very straight ahead. Except he doesn't have the fashion of a Robert Stone. Robert Stone takes a lot more fashion risks to cover up those muscles.
That is true. So that was your AEW Dynamite tonight. Of course, we appreciate everybody in the super chats. We appreciate everybody in the chat, regardless, everybody watching, whether you're watching live, whether you're listening after the fact. I ask every week, and I always love the responses I get, so I'll ask again. Always tweet us at This Is Nasty, at Justin LaBar. Where are you at when you watch this podcast? Are you watching live? Are you listening live? Are you watching or listening the day after? Are you ignoring the boss, ignoring the teacher? What is it you're doing that this podcast is getting you through your day? Whatever it is, we appreciate it, but love if you can share that. Alfred, where can people find you? What do you got going on in Forbes?
Well, right now on Forbes, I got a piece comparing the AEW TBS title tournament to the Queen's Crown in terms of match times, which a lot of was criticized for the W Queen's Crown. So they've had 7 matches for the AEW TBS title tournament, at least at the point where I posted, and the Queen's Crown was 7 matches. So just comparisons there. I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprise in terms of already an hour of ring time for this AEW tournament. And only 20 minutes in 7 matches for WWE. So very interesting stuff there that I uncovered. Follow me on Twitter at This Is Nasty. YouTube Pro Wrestling Bits just dropped a bit about Big Swole leaving. Godspeed, Big Swole. I think she's going to do great things. I actually kind of thought that was Big Swole under that hood in the main event. I thought, oh, this is Big Swerve. That's her. But it turned out to be Brady Rhodes, which makes more sense with Cody. But shout out to Big Swole.
Good stuff. So check out Pro Wrestling Bits. And yeah, interesting there. You're doing the comparison of the 2 tournaments. Alfred with the next gen stats of ring time, bell to bell time. This is going to be fun to see that side by side. Look forward to that. Always good there. At Justin LaBar is where you can find me. Of course, I'm here every single Wednesday night with Alfred. I'm here most Monday nights with whichever cast we have after Raw. Friday mornings, you can check me out on Busted Open on Sirius XM channel 156 every Friday morning at 10 a.m. with Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry. So if you enjoy us, there's no way to avoid us. We're everywhere. If you don't like us, just hit the mute button, I guess. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks to Manscaped. Thanks to everybody here at Wrestling Inc. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do the thing, and we'll talk to you next week. Be safe.